The sky above the alien city of Kiran was glowing a dark red. It looked like the sun itself was bleeding across the clouds. People were running through the streets, shouting and crying. Alarms echoed between the tall metal towers as the ground shook again and again. In the middle of all this chaos, an alien girl named Lyra held a glowing cube close to her chest. The cube was small, but its power felt heavy. Like she was carrying a dying star. Blue light leaked from every corner of the artifact, and the air around it cracked like glass. Every time it pulsed, Lyra felt the beat inside her bones. She knew what that meant. The artifact was waking up. Lyra's heart was shaking, but her eyes stayed calm. Her people had taught her since childhood that when the artifact chose someone, that person had only one role: to sacrifice themselves to stop the destruction. And now the artifact had chosen her. She was ready to accept her fate. As she turned toward the city's central tower, the place where she would give her life, a sudden noise stopped her. A metal door burst open, and a human soldier stepped out covered in dust and smoke. His armor was scratched, and his helmet was half broken. But his eyes were sharp and focused. This was Jason Hale, a human who had been sent on a peace mission before everything went wrong. Jason looked straight at Lyra, and then at the glowing artifact in her hands. He didn't understand everything, but he understood one thing clearly. She was about to die, and he could not let that happen. Lyra stepped back when she saw him. Humans were supposed to be far from this city. "Go away," she said, in a soft but shaking voice. "This is not your fight." Jason shook his head slowly, walking closer. "The whole planet is shaking because of that thing," he said. "That makes it everyone's fight." The ground cracked under their feet. Sending dust into the air, the artifact's light grew brighter. "Almost blinding," Lyra whispered. "It is choosing the final stage." Jason frowned. "And what does that mean?" Lyra swallowed hard. "It means the only way to stop it is with a sacrifice, and it chose me." Jason stepped forward quickly and grabbed her arm before she could move. "Not happening," he said in a strong voice. "No one is dying today." Lyra stared at him. Confused by the strange human bravery she had only read about in old stories. Her people never worked with humans, never trusted them, but this human was different. He did not look at her like she was a weapon. He looked at her like she was someone who deserved to live. The artifact shook again, harder this time. This time they heard something new, a voice. It was not a human voice, and not Lyra's voice. It sounded ancient, deep, and angry. The voice whispered through their minds. "Host chosen. Countdown begins." Jason stepped back, shocked. "Did it just talk?" he asked. Lyra nodded slowly. "It speaks only when the end is near." A new blast rocked the street, sending broken metal and stone flying everywhere. Jason pulled Lyra down behind a fallen pillar just in time. The artifact screamed with light, casting long shadows across the ruined city. Lyra looked at the ruins around her, and then at Jason. "You do not understand," she said. "I must go to the tower now. If I do not, the artifact will destroy everything." Jason shook his head again, harder this time. "There has to be another way. There is always another way." Lyra's voice softened, almost breaking. "You do not know this artifact. It was made to feed on sacrifice." Jason clenched his jaw. "Then we break the rules," he said. "We find a way without you dying." Before Lyra could answer, the artifact pulsed again, but this time the pulse went silent. A strange, heavy silence fell over the entire city. No alarms, no screaming, no explosions, only the sound of their breathing. Then the voice from the artifact whispered again, clearer than before. "Host must surrender." Lyra felt her legs weaken. Jason grabbed her before she fell, and he held her firmly. He looked straight into her eyes and said, "You are not surrendering to anything." The artifact glowed brighter and brighter until it lit the entire street blue. Jason looked at the light, then back at Lyra. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. He would not let an innocent girl die, not today. Not ever. And the artifact, almost alive, reacted to his decision. Its light twisted and grew louder. Like it was getting angry, the countdown had truly begun. The silence in the broken city did not last long. Soon, distant sirens returned, louder than before. Red lights flashed from the tall towers while the streets shook under the weight of incoming ships. Lyra looked up with fear in her eyes. "They are coming for the artifact," she whispered. "Both my people and your people." Jason tightened his grip on her arm gently, guiding her behind a fallen structure. "Why would humans come for it?" he asked. "I thought they did not even know what it really is." Lyra shook her head slowly. "They do not understand the truth," she said. "They think this artifact is a weapon, something they can control, but once they touch it, they will wake its hunger." Jason frowned as a human military dropship flew overhead, firing warning flares. The alien guards on the ground were already searching the ruins. Shooting at anything that moved, both sides were attacking without mercy. No one cared who lived or died. All they wanted was the artifact. Lyra held the glowing cube close to her chest as if she was trying to calm it down. But the artifact responded with a pulse of blue light that vibrated through her bones. Jason noticed her pain and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Does it hurt?" he asked. She nodded weakly. "It is trying to guide me, but I do not want to follow." Jason was no expert in alien technology, but he knew one thing for sure. "Then we run," he said. "And we find a place where nobody can reach us." Lyra looked at him, shocked by how simple he made it sound. "Run," she repeated. "With me." Jason nodded. "I am not leaving you behind," he said. "Not when the whole world wants to use you." A soft smile formed on Lyra's face, a smile full of confusion and warmth. She had never met anyone like Jason before, in her world. People did not risk their lives for strangers. They followed orders, rules, and traditions. But this human followed something else's heart. "Follow me," Jason said as he led her through the maze of broken buildings. They sprinted past burning metal beams and shattered glass. The sky above them turned darker as smoke mixed with clouds. A large explosion sounded behind them, shaking the ground like a giant's footsteps. Human soldiers had landed, and alien forces were closing in. Lyra suddenly stopped when she saw 3 alien soldiers blocking the path. They pointed their glowing rifles at her chest. "Return the artifact vessel," the leader commanded. "You are chosen to die for us." Jason stepped in front of Lyra without thinking. "Back away," he growled. "You are not taking her anywhere." The alien soldiers looked confused for a second. Why would a human protect a vessel? Why would an outsider challenge ancient traditions? Jason did not wait for an answer. He grabbed a broken metal rod from the ground and ran forward. The soldiers fired, but he dodged behind a wall. The shots burned the air like lightning. Lyra raised her hands, and blue light from the artifact covered them both. The energy absorbed the alien shots and bent them away. The soldiers panicked as the light grew brighter. "What is happening?" one of them shouted. "The artifact is choosing again," another said in fear. Jason pulled Lyra away as the soldiers retreated, too afraid to face the living artifact. They rushed deeper into the ruins until they reached an old canal that led out of the city. Metal pipes lined the narrow passage, dripping water that echoed in the darkness. "This place is safe," Jason whispered. For now, Lyra sat down on a broken crate, her hands shaking as she placed the artifact on her lap. "It reacted to your anger," she said. "It responded to your will." Jason stared at the cube. Confused. "What does that mean?" he asked. Lyra looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. It means the artifact does not only choose its host, she said slowly. It also chooses who can influence it. Jason felt a cold chill run down his spine. So now it listens to me too, he asked. Lyra nodded. That has never happened before, for the first time. Jason realized the truth. He was now part of something ancient, dangerous, and unpredictable. And whether he liked it or not, the artifact had noticed him. Lyra took a deep breath and stood up. If we want to survive, we must work together, she said. No more running alone. Jason extended his hand toward her. Then we make an alliance, he said. A forbidden one. Lyra placed her hand in his. And the artifact pulsed softly, almost approvingly. Two enemies had just become partners, and the universe was about to change because of it. Jason and Lyra walked through the old canal tunnel, their steps echoing softly in the dark space. Water dripped from the metal pipes above, making small ripples across the shallow stream. The air felt cold and heavy, as if the tunnel itself was holding its breath. The artifact rested in Lyra's hands, glowing faintly like a lonely star. Every few seconds, it pulsed, and the pulse traveled through the tunnel like a heartbeat. Jason kept looking around, expecting soldiers to appear at any moment. But the place was empty, forgotten long ago by both humans and aliens. Where does this tunnel lead? He whispered. Lyra used her free hand to touch the old symbols carved into the wall. It leads to an abandoned research base, she said. A place where my people once studied the artifact. Jason raised an eyebrow. You study something that kills the host? He asked. Lyra nodded slowly. We had no choice, she said. Some secrets must be understood, even if they are dangerous, as they walked deeper. The artifact suddenly grew warmer. Lyra winced and held it tighter. Jason noticed a flickering blue light reflecting off the water. Is it waking up again? He asked. Lyra shook her head. No, she whispered. It is remembering. Jason frowned. Remembering what? He asked. Lyra took a shaky breath. The past, she said. Everything it has destroyed. A chill crawled down Jason's spine. He had seen many weapons in his life, but none of them remembered their victims. None of them were alive like this. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber filled with broken machines and dusty screens. This was the old research base. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead vines. Cracked monitors flickered weakly, still holding on to the last bits of power. Lyra moved toward a central console, brushing dust off the surface. This place studied the artifact for 30 years, she said. They tried to control it. Jason looked at the rusted equipment around them. Did they fail? He asked. Lyra nodded. They all vanished. Jason stared at her in shock. Vanished, he repeated. Not died, not killed, but vanished. Lyra nodded again. The artifact does not always destroy with fire, she said. It can erase things from time itself. It feeds on fear, on despair, and on sacrifice. Jason felt the weight of her words settle like a stone in his chest. He looked down at the cube sitting on the console, glowing brighter than before. So what exactly is it? He asked. A weapon, a creature, a machine. Lyra looked at him with sad, tired eyes. It is all of those things, she said. And none of them? She placed her hand over the cube. The true secret, she whispered, is that the artifact was never meant to protect anyone. It was created to test us. Jason narrowed his eyes. Test? He asked. What kind of test? Lyra replied in a soft voice. A test to see which species would sacrifice one of their own. Jason stepped back at the idea. You mean it chooses someone, he said, and waits to see if their people will let them die? Lyra nodded quietly. Yes, she said. And if the sacrifice happens? The artifact sleeps, but if someone refuses? She looked at Jason. Her eyes shining with fear and hope, mixed together. It becomes angry, she said. It becomes unpredictable. Jason understood instantly. "The artifact is reacting to me," he said slowly. "Because I refuse to let you die." Lyra touched the cube again, and its light grew brighter. "You broke the rule," she said. "You did something no one has ever done before." Jason took a deep breath, feeling the air grow heavier around him. "So what happens now?" he asked. Lyra turned toward the glowing screens as they flickered back to life. Old recordings played, showing scientists running as blue light swallowed the corridors. "The artifact will try to force the sacrifice," she said, "and it will do everything it can to make you give up." Jason clenched his fists, his eyes full of determination. "It can try," he said calmly, "but I am not letting you go." Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. "No one has ever defended a vessel before," she said. "No one has ever given the artifact a different answer." Jason stepped closer and gently touched her shoulder. "Then we will be the first," he said. "We will change the story." The artifact pulsed again. But this time, the pulse felt different. It felt angry, alive, aware. The blue light twisted into strange shapes across the walls, and a deep voice echoed from the cube. "Defiance detected." Jason's heartbeat quickened. Lyra grabbed his hand, fear shaking through her. The artifact glowed brighter and brighter. The chamber trembled as if something inside the cube was trying to break free. For the first time, Jason felt it. The presence inside the artifact, ancient and watching, and it did not like what it saw. The test had begun, and they were now its enemy. The abandoned research base grew darker as the artifact's light faded into a cold blue glow. Jason and Lyra stood side by side, staring at the cube as it slowly calmed itself. But the air around them felt wrong, too still, too quiet. Like the world was waiting for something terrible to arrive. Jason stepped toward the tunnel entrance and listened carefully. He heard a faint hum in the distance. It wasn't the wind, it wasn't the dripping water. It was the sound of engines, the sound of hunters closing in. Lyra felt the artifact twitch in her hands. "It knows they are coming," she whispered. "It can feel their fear, their desire to take it." Jason placed a hand on his weapon, even though he knew bullets wouldn't help much. "Who is coming first?" he asked. "My people," Lyra said softly. They moved faster underground. Just then, the lights above them flickered as footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Slow, heavy, controlled steps. Not the steps of soldiers searching, but soldiers hunting. Jason grabbed Lyra's wrist gently. "We need to move," he said. Lyra nodded. "But where?" she asked. Jason pointed to the far side of the chamber, where a rusted metal door leaned off its hinges. "There," he said, "that leads deeper underground." As they hurried toward it, a blast shook the ground behind them. The tunnel wall exploded as alien commandos stepped through the smoke. Their armor glowed with sharp blue lines, and their eyes locked instantly on the artifact. "Vessel," their leader shouted. "You belong to us." Jason stepped between them and Lyra, raising his weapon even though it shook in his hands. "She's not going anywhere with you," he said. The alien leader tilted his head, confused. "You protect the vessel," he asked. "Why?" Jason's voice remained firm. "Because her life matters." The alien soldiers hesitated. They had never seen a human defend a vessel. It made them uncertain, and uncertainty was fear. The artifact reacted instantly, pulsing in Lyra's hands like a living heartbeat. Blue waves spread across the room, shaking metal panels loose. The alien soldiers staggered back as the energy wrapped around their armor. "It senses your fear," Lyra whispered. "Jason, we need to get away before it feeds more." Jason nodded and pulled her through the old metal door. It screeched loudly, giving away their location as they slipped into another hallway. Behind them, the alien soldiers recovered and charged forward. Their voices echoed through the corridor like angry thunder, but they weren't the only ones coming. As Jason and Lyra ran deeper into the base, new sounds filled the tunnels. Metal claws scraping the floor, heavy boots landing hard. Human soldiers shouting orders. Jason's eyes widened. "That's my people," he said. "But why are they underground?" Lyra looked down. Her voice barely above a breath. "They are tracking the same energy," she said. "Your commanders want the artifact, and they will take it even if they must kill me." Jason cursed under his breath as the walls vibrated with two different armies approaching from opposite directions. They were trapped between both sides ready to fight. Both sides wanting the artifact at any cost. He pulled Lyra into a side room filled with old hologram projectors and broken consoles. Dust floated in the air like snow as they crouched behind a tall metal crate. Lyra held the cube close to her chest, her hands trembling. "It feels angry," she whispered. "It feels hungry." Jason placed his hands on her shoulders, steadying her. "Hey," he said softly. "You are not alone. Stay with me." For a moment, their eyes met. Lyra saw something she had never seen in anyone. Not fear. Not desperation, but a promise. A promise that he would not abandon her. A promise that he would fight for her. A loud explosion ripped through the corridor as human soldiers clashed with alien commandos. Blue beams and red bullets filled the air, turning the tunnel into a storm of light and fire. Jason peeked around the doorway and saw both sides fighting fiercely. Not caring who they hit, the whole base shook as two armies battled for the same prize. Lyra pressed the artifact against her chest as if trying to smother its growing power. "Jason," she whispered, fear trembling in her words. "It wants something." Jason knelt beside her. "What does it want?" he asked. Lyra closed her eyes. "Listening to the pulse of the cube, it wants a decision," she said. "It wants one of us to surrender." Jason shook his head instantly. "No," he said firmly. "Not happening." Lyra stared at him, her expression soft and filled with fragile hope. "You keep saying that," she said quietly. "But the artifact is not a machine. It will not stop." Jason gripped her hand tightly. "Then neither will we," he replied. The artifact reacted, glowing brighter than ever before. The fighting outside suddenly stopped as both armies turned their heads toward the room. They had felt it too, a power rising, a presence awakening. Jason and Lyra stood slowly as blue light filled the chamber. The artifact was no longer hiding its voice. It spoke clearly this time. "Conflict detected," it said. "Balance unstable, sacrifice required." Jason stepped in front of Lyra, refusing to move, refusing to bow, refusing to surrender. And the artifact trembled with rage at his defiance. The real war had just begun. The blue light from the artifact filled the entire research chamber like a rising ocean. Jason shielded his eyes with his arm, while Lyra held the cube tightly. It felt heavier now, as if the artifact was waking up fully for the first time. The air crackled with strange energy, making the walls vibrate like a living creature was trapped inside them. Outside the room, the human soldiers and alien commandos froze in mid-battle. Their weapons lowered slowly as the artifact's light wrapped around them. It did not attack, it simply watched, judging them. Measuring their fear, Lyra could feel its voice inside her mind. Whispering like cold wind, "It wants us to follow," she said softly. Jason frowned. "Follow where?" he asked. Lyra pointed toward an old elevator door at the back of the chamber. "The heart of the base," she whispered. "And the heart of the artifact?" Jason grabbed her hand and helped her move through the shaking room. The elevator door slid open by itself with a loud metallic groan. Inside, darkness waited like a deep hole. The artifact pulsed once. Illuminating the path with its eerie blue glow, Jason stepped in first, keeping his weapon ready even though he knew it wouldn't help. Lyra followed, and the door closed behind them. The elevator dropped suddenly, sending a rush of cold air past their faces. Jason steadied Lyra as the walls flashed with old symbols from a forgotten language. "What is this place?" Jason asked. Lyra's voice trembled as she answered. "This base was built over an ancient ruin. My people found something below it. They believed the artifact was born here." Jason felt a chill crawl across his skin. "And now we're going straight into it," he muttered. The elevator stopped with a hard jolt. The doors opened into a massive underground chamber that looked nothing like the upper base. It was ancient, carved entirely from black stone covered in glowing patterns. Blue rivers of energy moved across the walls like veins. And at the center stood a huge, circular structure shaped like a doorway. Lyra gasped. "I have seen this in the old records," she whispered. "This is the origin chamber." The artifact in her hands pulsed so strongly that Jason felt the vibration through the floor. "It's reacting to this place," he said. Lyra nodded. "It wants us to step inside." Jason's eyes narrowed. "We are not stepping into anything until we understand what it is." But before they could decide, the doorway lit up with a blinding flash. A swirling blue portal opened, releasing a cold breath of air that smelled like ancient dust and lightning. Lyra stared at it with wide eyes. "The artifact is calling me," she whispered. "I can feel it pulling." Jason grabbed her arm quickly. "No," he said sharply. "If you go in there alone, it will force the sacrifice." Lyra looked at him with tears forming in her eyes. "Jason," she whispered, "it might be the only way to stop it." Jason shook his head firmly. "There is always another way. You do not die for this thing." But the portal expanded, and the artifact floated out of Lyra's hands by itself. It hovered in the air, glowing brighter and brighter until a deep voice filled the chamber. "Enter," the artifact commanded. Jason stepped in front of Lyra instinctively. "We go together," he said. The artifact pulsed angrily. But the portal did not close. Lyra took a deep breath and nodded. "Together," she whispered, hand in hand. They stepped into the swirling blue light. Cold air wrapped around them as the world twisted. Figures and memories flashed around them like ghosts' ruined worlds. Forgotten battles, ancient faces. The artifact was showing them everything it had destroyed, everything it had consumed. Jason tightened his grip on Lyra. Refusing to let go, the light shifted suddenly, and they landed on a dark stone platform surrounded by endless space. Blue energy storms swirled in the distance like living creatures. Lyra looked around in fear. "This is not a place," she whispered. "This is inside the artifact." Jason felt his heartbeat quicken. "So this is the heart," he said quietly. The core of the cube, a towering figure appeared ahead of them, made of pure blue light. Its form shifted and changed, sometimes human, sometimes alien, sometimes something Jason could not understand. Its voice echoed through the entire dimension. "You refuse the sacrifice," it said. "You break the ancient cycle." Jason stepped forward, standing tall, even though his legs trembled. "Yes," he said. "I refuse." The figure's voice grew colder. "Then the burden will grow," it said. "You challenge the design." Jason looked back at Lyra and then at the glowing giant. "If your design needs her to die, then your design is broken," he said. "And I will break it with you." Lyra stared at Jason with shock, admiration, and something deeper hope. No one had ever spoken to the artifact like that. No one had ever dared. The giant of light seemed to consider his words. The storms around them grew louder. The platform shook under their feet. The entire dimension trembled with rising fury. "You defy destiny," the artifact said. "You will suffer for this." Jason held Lyra's hand tighter. "Then let it begin," he said calmly. And the heart of the artifact roared in anger as the test reached its next stage. The heart of the artifact shook like a living storm. Blue lightning curled around Jason and Lyra, wrapping them in cold air that felt sharp as glass. The giant made of light stood in front of them, its shifting form glowing brighter with every second. Sometimes it looked human, sometimes alien, sometimes a creature Jason had never seen before. It was as if all the species the artifact had destroyed lived inside its shape. Its voice echoed across the endless dark space. "You resist the sacrifice," it said. "You challenge the balance." Jason stepped forward even though the ground trembled under him. He kept Lyra behind him, protecting her with his body. "I will not let her die," he said. "I don't care about your rules." The giant tilted its head, studying him like a scientist examining a strange new creature. "You misunderstand," it said. "The sacrifice is not punishment, it is the solution." Jason shook his head firmly. "Sacrificing someone is never a solution," he said. "It is murder." Lyra held Jason's arm tightly, her skin glowing with faint blue patterns. The patterns responded to the artifact's energy. Shifting slowly like moving ink, she could feel the pull inside her chest, calling her to step forward, calling her to surrender. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "It wants me," she whispered. "It wants my life." The giant turned its glowing eyes toward her. "You were chosen since birth," it said. "Your soul aligns with the core. Your sacrifice would restore the balance." Jason stepped between them again. "Her life is not yours to take," he said. The giant's voice rumbled like thunder. "Then offer your own," it said. Lyra gasped and pulled Jason back. "No," she whispered. "Jason, don't listen." But Jason stood firm, staring straight at the giant. "If someone must die," he said, "then take me." The giant's shape flickered in surprise for the first time in thousands of years. A human had offered himself freely, not out of fear, not out of duty, but out of choice. Lyra grabbed his hand, shaking her head wildly. "No," she said. "You can't. You don't understand what it will do to you." Jason turned toward her, his eyes soft but steady. "I do understand," he said. "You deserve to live." "Lyra, you didn't choose this fate." Tears gathered in her eyes, glowing bright in the blue light around them. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered. "No one has ever cared." Jason gently touched her cheek. "I care," he said. "And I am not letting you die." The storm around them grew louder. The giant lifted its hands, and the platform beneath their feet cracked as though the world itself was splitting. "Your courage is unusual," the giant said. "But courage alone cannot break the cycle." Jason squared his shoulders. "Then I will break it with something stronger," he said. The giant's light flickered. "And what is stronger than courage?" it asked. Jason reached for Lyra's hand, holding it tightly. "Connection," he said. "Hope, protecting someone you care about." Lyra stared at him with wide eyes as the artifact pulsed again. But this time, the pulse did not feel like anger. It felt confused, uncertain, as if it could not understand what Jason was showing. "You cannot defeat destiny," the giant said. Jason lifted his chin. "Destiny isn't something you follow," he said. "It's something you make." The dimension shook again as cracks spread across the sky above them. Blue storms twisted violently, reacting to Jason's refusal. Lyra squeezed his hand, her voice trembling. "Jason," she whispered, "what if we fail?" Jason looked at her and smiled gently. "Even as the ground crumbled beneath them, then we fail together," he said. "But we don't give up." The giant raised its arms, and a massive wave of blue energy rushed toward them. Lyra screamed and held on to Jason, but Jason did not step back. He stepped forward into the wave, shielding Lyra with his body. The energy hit him like a burning star. Pain exploded through every nerve, but he didn't fall. He stayed on his feet, holding Lyra close. The energy wrapped around them both. testing them, searching for weakness, searching for surrender. But Jason did not surrender, not for a single second. The giant's voice trembled for the first time. "This is impossible," it said. "No species has ever resisted the core." Jason forced his eyes open and glared at the glowing figure. "You made a mistake," he said. "You thought pain would break us, but you don't understand humans." The giant stepped back as cracks formed across its glowing body. Lyra felt her own energy rising, not fear, not despair, but strength, Jason's strength, and her own, together. They stepped through the wave of light. Together, they stood tall against the storm. Together, they made the artifact hesitate. The giant spoke again, but now its voice carried fear. "Your bond disrupts the pattern," it said. "This cannot be allowed." Jason held Lyra's hand even tighter, then tried to stop us, he said. And the heart of the artifact erupted into chaos as the final stage began. The heart of the artifact shook like a dying star. Blue storms twisted around Jason and Lyra as cracks spread across the glowing sky. The giant made of light staggered backward, its shape flickering like a candle in strong wind. It had never been afraid before. But now it was, because for the first time, someone refused its rules. Jason stood firm, even though his knees trembled and his body burned from the energy blast. He held Lyra's hand tightly, refusing to let her go, refusing to surrender, refusing the ancient cycle that had killed so many before her. Lyra could feel Jason's heartbeat through his hand, strong and steady despite the storm around them. Her own fear slowly faded, replaced by a rising warmth. A warmth she had never felt in her life. She whispered softly, "Jason, you gave me strength." Jason looked at her with a tired but real smile. "No," he said. "You had strength long before I came. I just helped you see it," the giant growled, its voice echoing across the sky like breaking mountains. "Enough," it said. "This bond is a threat to the design. This connection must be destroyed." It raised its arms, gathering a storm of blue lightning so bright the entire dimension shook. Lyra gasped as the air turned cold enough to bite her skin. Jason pulled her behind him again, planting his feet like an unbreakable shield. "You want to destroy something?" he shouted to the giant. "Then destroy me." The giant paused, its light pulsing in confusion. "Why sacrifice yourself for someone not of your kind?" it asked. Jason glared at it without fear. "Because humanity doesn't care about kind," he said. "We care about people." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. No one in her world had ever said such words. No one had ever valued her life above their own. But this human did, and that changed everything inside her. Her markings glowed brighter as she stepped beside Jason instead of behind him. "I refuse to," she said. "I will not be your vessel. I will not be your sacrifice." The giant trembled. Two beings resisting together created a shockwave the artifact had never prepared for. "You break the cycle," it said. "You corrupt the pattern." The storms around them tightened like giant swirling beasts, roaring with anger, but Jason didn't step back. He stepped forward, dragging Lyra with him. He stared straight at the glowing giant. "Your pattern was always broken," he said. "Because it asks for death." Lyra lifted her hands and touched the glowing air. To her surprise, the storm bent around her fingers. It did not hurt her. It responded to her. Jason noticed and said quietly, "You can control it." Lyra's eyes widened. "I don't know how," she whispered. "Yes, you do," Jason replied. "You were chosen since birth, not to die, but to change the artifact from inside," the giant roared. "Impossible," it said. "No host has ever resisted." Jason smiled faintly. "Then she will be the first," he said, "and I'll stand beside her, together." They raised their hands toward the swirling storm. The light around them shifted. It was no longer blue and cold. It turned warm, gold, almost alive with hope. Lyra felt the artifact inside herself. She felt its pain, its fear, its loneliness. It had destroyed worlds for ages, not because it wanted to, but because it did not know anything else. She whispered softly to it. You don't need sacrifice. You don't need death. You can end this cycle. Jason added his voice. Calm but powerful. Let us choose a different path. The golden light burst from their hands. It spread across the sky, dissolving the storms. The dark space brightened as if a new dawn rose inside the core of the artifact. The giant staggered backward, cracks spreading through its chest like breaking glass. Its voice softened, losing its anger. Your bond changes the core, it said. This was not predicted. Jason stepped closer, still holding Lyra's hand. That's what makes it real, he said. The giant's body shattered into tiny particles of blue light. They swirled around Jason and Lyra like soft snow before fading into the golden glow. The dimension collapsed gently, not with violence, but with peace. The platform beneath them dissolved. The sky opened into warm light. And they felt themselves pulled upward when the light faded. Jason and Lyra stood once again in the ruined chamber of the underground base. But now the artifact rested quietly in Lyra's hands. Its glow was no longer angry or cold. It was soft, warm, and calm. Jason exhaled deeply. It's over, he whispered. Lyra looked at him with tears in her eyes. No, she said softly. This is a beginning. Jason smiled and held her hand again. Then we walk this beginning together, he said, for the first time in centuries. The artifact had chosen a future without sacrifice. Because one human refused to let an innocent girl die. And because together, they broke a cycle older than any world. Their story, the story of a human and an alien girl, had only just begun.